Hi, I'm Roberto Marquez. In this video, I give an overview of how these two-headed treasure troll dolls were modeled using OpenSCAD. This project came about because I noticed two-headed troll dolls are hard to come by and expensive. So the first thing I did was obtain a one-headed treasure troll doll and work from there. The one you see here was found on a site that I'll link to in the project documentation, but it was really high res and took a lot of time to render in OpenSCAD. So the very first thing I did once I had a one-headed troll doll was to run it through Blender using the decimate tool to reduce the faces. And to do that, I went to this little tool icon and added the decimate modifier and specified a ratio here that set the number of faces to something below 10,000 that OpenSCAD can more easily handle. And so you'll notice the faces are currently at 449,000 plus. And once you click the apply button, it'll bring that down to a number that's workable. So here you can see with that application, with applying that, it went down quite a bit, and now there's only 44,000. So you'll just keep doing that until you get something below 10,000, like I said. Maybe I'll just go halfway. Or halfway would be 20. So we just want a quarter of this and apply. And you'll eventually get something that you'll be able to use as an import to OpenSCAD. Next thing I did once I had the original model of a one-headed treasure troll was to create a test script that allows me to easily view my progress. And the first thing I wanted to do was be able to see the one-headed troll, which you see here, and these 1 and 0 flags set whether I'm going to see it or not. So 1 is I want to see it, 0 is I don't. If I switch this to 0 and this one to 1, I'll only see the headless troll. The same thing for head-only troll. And then finally, I'll demonstrate how I can view the two-headed troll. So now if I save this, it will only show the headless troll in OpenSCAD. There it is. And to help debug, I use different colors to view without subtracting. Similarly, if I set the head-only flag to 1, I'll see headless and head-only troll. So that's that. And these blank spots are, I guess, a glitch from OpenSCAD. But once you hit the design render option, it shows the model as it actually is. Lastly, in this script, I'll set these back to 0 and the two-headed flag to 1 so we can see the final product. And there it is. So again, this script was mainly to help debug and make sure that I had any floaters or leftovers from subtractions removed so that the model was more of what I wanted. The first piece I modeled was the headless troll from the original. And so that's why I only have this flag set, so we can just see that in OpenSCAD. And the module that does that is called headless troll. And that module exists in this file. And this is the implementation of it. And so what it does is take the original troll and it uses another module that I call the head remover, and then another cube that takes away some leftovers that I mentioned earlier. So in OpenSCAD, you'll see final product. And I'll next show how I took away the pieces one by one. So if we don't take away this part, we'll get everything. And so I'll just comment it out so that you can see how it's the whole thing. And then if I uncomment the head remover, you'll see that that's how I got away with that. But it left this little hanging lip right here. It may be hard to see from here, so I'm going to zoom in. And that did not look well in the final output, so I added this code here to remove that little lip. And so here it is with the lip. It's kind of hard to tell, but that piece is going to go away once I save this file. And you can tell that it was removed in orange, and that's why you see a different color there. The next part I modeled was just the head from the original model. So that required taking away the body part. And this flag is used to only view the head only part of the troll. So right now we have this guy, and then if I save it, I'll just view the head. And head only flag calls the module troll head, which is saved in this file, and I'll show the implementation next. Yeah, it's troll head. And so what this module does is take an intersection of the original troll and the sphere and takes away these leftovers here. So this is what we have right now. And if I remove that first intersection, or everything but the first intersection, you'll see why this code was needed. So you have more of these leftover parts that made the final model look funny, because you could still see the shoulders. And so I'll show how, if I comment out this first part, uncomment, that part of this shoulder is removed, and I'm just going to keep showing how more and more was taken away with these code fragments down here. So that took away the right part of the shoulder, and in both of those shoulder parts, I'm just using a sphere with radius 20 and translating accordingly. The next part I think is to remove this neck piece. And this is the bit of code that does that. And you'll see that because I'm using green on line 68, that piece that is removed is removed with the green color. And once I save it, you'll see that, let's see where, yeah, it's that underneath piece right there. It wasn't quite desirable. And the last piece will be removed in blue. And forgot to mention that the last two pieces were using cubes instead of spheres. So once I save that, we should get rid of this part down here. It's saved, and yeah, that's the part that was removed. And next we'll move on to the implementation of the actual two-headed troll. You may have noticed to obtain the headless troll and head-only troll that the OpenSCAD difference module was used. But to obtain the two-headed troll, we're going to use the union module, which adds things together and not subtracts. So we'll set this flag to 0 and this one to 1 so that we only see the two-headed final model. And it will save it. You can see that now we have that. And two-headed troll was implemented with a module named two-headed troll. And that module lives here. And like I said, it uses union and not difference. And we have some scaling of the original head and some constants to define what we're going to use, what values we're going to use for translating. And the first thing we do is set a left head and a right head. And remember, these are being union, so they're going to come together. And so I'll just show what just the two heads look like and nothing else. So we should just see the two heads. And I believe the next thing we added was some neck pieces, which are here. We uncomment that. We should get, I believe it's the little goiter part of the troll. Yeah, there's that. And I noticed that didn't look well in the back, so I added some pieces there, which are implemented with this chunk of code. And if I save that, you can see in the back, now we have that little blue ball there that keeps a gap from showing in the final model. And similarly for the right side, I used a green chunk, a green sphere. It's going to show up right there once I save. And that's that. And the next part was to add the actual body of the troll, which is really just headless troll. So let's see what that looks like once I uncomment and save. So there's a union of all those pieces. And the next thing you would do in OpenSCAD is just design and render. And that'll take a bit because even though I decimated it using Blender, there's still a lot of faces. But once it renders, you'll go to File and Export as STL, and then you have a model that's fit for 3D printing. Once I had the main part of the Treasure Troll model, the next thing was to get Treasure Troll hair. And early on in the project, I thought about using an existing model like this Christmas tree, but then Hairy Lion came out, and I thought it was really cool and very proper for use in this project. But I ended up using OpenSCAD to create my Treasure Troll hair. And that file, or this file here, is what I ended up developing to create that. And so let me bring it up so you can see what I'm talking about. Here's troll hair, and you can see it kind of just looks like a rectangle or a cube stretched out a little bit on the y-axis or x-axis. And let's dig into what all entailed creating this. And so back in NetBeans, you can see I have a module called wall, which represents this side piece and this side piece. So let's see what the model looks like just with wall. And so I'll comment out this block of code and save it, and you can see that it's just basically the support for the actual hair pieces that go in between the two walls. I'll rotate that so you can see better. And if I uncomment out this chunk of code again, you'll notice that I'm using a double for loop. Kind of reminds me of the Riemann sum. So we have a y variable and a z variable that are telling it to step up and down. So for now, I'm going to comment out this so you can see that what it looks like with just one layer of hair. But before I do that, I need to set a z variable to the first iteration, the initial value of z, which is 0.4, and I'm getting that 0.4 from right here. So if I save that, you should see, well, actually, you see a syntax error, and that's because I forgot a semicolon here. And so it just created the first level, right? It still did one loop of the for, but to go all the way up, that's why we need this inner for loop. And so I can get rid of this and add back the inner loop that controls height. And we're still using an initial value of 0.4 and our steps, which is the width between hairs, and it's currently set to 0.8. And the side square is defined up here as 30. So you'll get a 30 by 30 chunk of hair. And that's, again, this is just as one layer, and if I save this code, you'll see that it goes all the way up. And I'll zoom in really, really tight so you can see that, you know, that's kind of what we have. And that's pretty much what it took to get the hair going. Lastly, for assembly, I printed several troll doll models and hair pieces that look like this. And to use the model for the hair, I cut off this top piece using an X-Acto knife and ended up with something like this. And from there, you'll cut them to shape. But for the attaching to the troll head, there's a cavity at the top that you want a rounded piece. And I used E6000 to attach them and got them to look like this. And for the eyes, I just took a Sharpie and added a pupil. And if you prefer, put a heat source on the hair to have it look like a more traditional looking treasure troll doll. So that's how I used OpenSCAD to create a two-headed treasure troll. Like and subscribe for more OpenSCAD and 3D printing content.